We're going to use the motion path tool to run an object. In this case, it'll be an image of an X along this sine wave here. To do this, I went into Snugit and I created a reticle or an X. In this case it's a plus, made out of two red lines and then this diagonal black line. The black line is very thin. And I made it this way so that after I use this in Camtasia, I can use remove a color to get rid of the black line and just leave the X. Of course, if I keep this in Snugit, I could always come back here and change the colors to anything I want. In Camtasia you could use, if you wanted to once it's imported, color tint to change the color of this object. So, back in Camtasia I've gone ahead and imported that Snugit object. It's this one up here, and I've put it on the timeline. It's centered right now. And what I need to do is use motion path to try to move it around here. So we'll use the X key to go to motion path. Select the object, and by the way, the object, after I brought it into Camtasia, I rotated it 45 degrees. Which made the diagonal black line go vertical, and it changed the little plus into an X. The vertical line is gonna be used to easily find my place along this curve, so, with this thing selected, I'm gonna add the motion path tool to it. And I'm going to drag it out until it spans the length of little project, in this case just 1 minute. Now I'm gonna double tap the start point. That's my start point for the first thing, and I'm going to change the line type here to just straight lines, and I don't want any easing on it, so we're gonna use ease none. And then I'm gonna drag it over here to the very beginning spot of this curve. I'm gonna double tap on the ending point. Go back to the left 1 frame. And now I'm going to make sure I've got the same line type but no easing, and I'm gonna drag him down to the ending point in this project. And if I scrub, you could see that as we translate time on the timeline, we translate the graph, just not following the sine wave yet. Note that as I move the X, the vertical black line moves also. First thing I'm gonna do is try to find the peaks and valleys here, so here's a valley. I'm gonna mark it by stopping it along the timeline here. And I'm going to, with my eyeball at the spot, grab the X and then just pull it down. And put it about where I had it. Let it go. Now I'm gonna move the X along the timeline, till I find the peak. There it is. Same drill. Grab the X, look at the peak and put it there also. Let go. We'll look for our next valley. Moving along here. There's the valley. Grab the X, down we go, into the hollow, let it go. And we'll find the next peak. Same drill, grab the X, slide it up, put it in the peak, and let it go. And we'll go to the last valley. That's about here. I'm gonna point out, as soon as you start to move this X, a point gets created on the motion path tool, so there we are. We'll let it go. Now we do a crude translate. You can see that we're kinda jumping around, but we're basically following the sine wave. Now we can go polish this and make it look a lot better. Now as I move the X over the timeline, you can see, from a line here where we're pretty far off where our curve is exactly. So what I'm gonna do is just pick some spots, and I need to put this X down on the line, vertically down the black line, so I'm going to zoom in the timeline a little bit here. Eyeball where this is, and then grab the X and move him down, try to put him right where he was, and let go. And we're gonna do the same thing for other points along here. We'll try to pick a spot where it makes sense to have the curve go and hit this. Looks pretty good, so I'm gonna grab this again, being careful to drop vertically, and let go. We'll do a couple more here. Let's zoom back out. We got some big error up here, so let's go up there and look at that. So we'll make him look a little bit better there by zooming in. We gotta go from here to there. So we'll grab the X and move him up to that spot, let go. And we'll go back up and fit. And if I translate back, not too bad, but there's an error here, so let's see if we can patch that up a little bit. Zoom in. Again, drop vertically back down the line. You gotta do these movements vertically. That keeps the time right. So we'll grab this. Drop down. We'll let go, fit back up and let's do a quick check on how this looks. Got some fixing to do down here, so we'll go ahead and do that right now while I'm in the mood. So I'll scrub and pick a spot. This should work. You can also look at these points here and put spots in between if you'd like. This is almost in between. That's a good way to do it. Grab and drop. And we'll go along. Same thing here. Grab and drop. But you get the idea. Off camera, I would go ahead and finish this whole curve, and come up with a decent result. Here I basically finished placing all those motion path points. If I scrub the timeline, you can see I've done a fairly decent job of being able to track the line tightly. And if I want to have just the action, not this vertical lines staying in there, I'll select my image of the X. I've already applied remove a color and picked black. I'm gonna turn it back on. Line goes away. So there we go. We now have an X jumping up and down, and I'll get a real good results. And like I said, once it's on, you can use color tint to change this color if you want to.